Well, we start right on time here at Open at the Top. This is Reverend Greg Dorst, and I'm really happy to see you guys. So I'll know you're on when the hearts start coming up. They start floating up, and I know that you're here. And I love it when you write a comment too. It really helps me to recognize who's here and also to get a sense of what it is that you like and what it is that you'd like to hear more of. So I'm here tonight. I'm going to talk about some things that I really have been passionate about today. And I use the word passionate because I think that that's a positive word. I hate to say that I've been focused on them because they're causing a lot of pain, but that's true too. They've made their way into my consciousness because there's a lot going on, and I'm going to be talking about it a little bit tonight. So this Open at the Top is all about receiving the good, and we receive the good directly from God, Spirit, universal source, whatever you'd like to call it. That's where our power comes from. That's where our wisdom comes from. That's where any intuitive resource comes from. And that's where our sense of direction comes from. And the sense of direction is going to be a little bit about what I'm talking about today. So let's just do this one more time here and recognize that we are asking for a good sense of direction, good orderly direction, which is God. Good orderly direction in our lives. We receive all of this magnificent wisdom, intuitive resource, and goodness in our lives, and love. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I have a very, very good friend. And this good friend met a milestone today. He had 23 years of sobriety. And it's wonderful to spend time with him over such a great occasion because 23 years ago, and I knew him then too, 23 years ago he was unable to do the things that he can do today. He was unable to have real connective relationships, unable to align with a power greater than himself in a way that really made sense for him, unable to accomplish even the most menial of human tasks, being on time, taking care of your responsibilities, being professionally able and capable. And today he's one of the most magnificent human beings I know, and he's capable of doing all of those kinds of things. And so he has received all of this because he's part of a fellowship that I'm part of as well. And so is Jackie, by the way, and she readily, and by the way, she is the producer today, and we had to fire Harley. Oh, he's well. He's doing okay. It's just that we're away from the house. We're in a space on the lake, which is away from our house a little bit. And so we don't want him to run around here. And last time he was in this particular place, he actually found a chicken bone on the ground, and we had a little problem with that. So he's sheltering in place right now. So anyway, this friend of mine, a wonderful friend, a great human being, is sober today, just as Jackie and I are. And you know, anybody that knew us back then, when we were having difficulty doing all of the things that we needed to do, like normal human beings, being on time, the niceties of relationships, just being a human being, having a human experience. When we were having those difficulties, people who knew that we had these problems could take a look at some of the evidence right in front of them and say, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's acting like he's drinking. He's acting like a person who drinks. And there are certain signs and symptoms of that. You know, there's little evidence of that. There's some things that show up in your life when you're having those kinds of problems. But when we all got sober, we decided to live by a certain set of principles. We decided that we were going to attach ourselves to a belief system that seem to work in other people, that seem to have some real truth, that seem to bring about a new way of looking at the world and living life. And the people that saw us during this transformative period said, "Oh my gosh, there's something really different about these people. You know, they're obviously engaged in something different. There's a an adherence to a belief system that really makes sense for them. There's something going on in their lives that a sober person, that a person who's not using drugs and alcohol and who's treating people as if they're consciously aware of who they are and what they're going through. There's something about them today that evidences this sobriety." So you could look at us and say, wow, you know, they're acting in a loving, compassionate, caring way. They've got this connection and harmonization with God and a power greater than themselves. And they seem to, you know, not talk about that all the time, but act like that's the way they live. That's what they believe. We were acting like we believe these principles that we espoused. And so it got me thinking today, you know, what the requirement for membership is in the group that we belong to, the three of us, Jackie and my friend and I belong to. There's no requirement for membership except that you have a desire to stop drinking. And you're a member when you say you are. Now that's an interesting phrase, isn't it? You're a member when you say you are. So it started me thinking about whether or not in all things that we do, you are an adherent to principles just because you say you are. Or are these things that sort of have to be evidenced? You know, are you fair and compassionate and loving just because you say you are? You know, are you a well, let me tackle it this way, because I think this is an interesting way to do it. When I was in elementary school, I remember filling out some sort of a questionnaire for the first time. I think in order to understand most of the questions, I probably had to be in about 4th grade. But I remember that in that questionnaire, there was a question about what religion I am. And there were options, you know, Jewish, Catholic, Methodist, Protestant. I remember those being on the list. And I don't know, you know, I looked at those and I didn't know the differences, and I didn't really know what I was in terms of a religion. And I don't know if there's anybody who was answering those questions in 4th grade that probably could have answered them in a way that made sense. Do they adhere to those beliefs, or is this something that was passed down to them from their parents? I mean, is religion just passed down to you from your parents? I mean, are you Protestant because your parents were? Are you Catholic because your parents were? Or do you actually have to believe and act like you believe certain principles, certain precepts? Are you Protestant because you say you are? I mean, am I Catholic because I say I am? Or do I have to act like and believe like a Catholic would? Or in my case, a religious scientist, you know? And I asked Jackie this earlier. I said to her, you know, what do you think I would have to act like, and how my languaging and understanding of life would have to look like for people to recognize and know that I am a minister of the science of mind. I'm a devotee of the science of mind. And she said, well, you'd have to act like all things are one. You know, you'd have to espouse love in every situation, recognizing and knowing that it's the healing entity as well as the presence of God. That you would recognize that you are a vessel through which God works. That your life unfolds as you believe. That the values, the structures of knowing that you have, the belief systems that you have are what will outpicture in your life as you move forward. And if you start talking about that, she said, Greg, if you start talking about that, then I'd say, this guy knows something about the science of mind. Well, you know, sometimes I look around today and I wonder whether or not people understand what it is they call themselves. Here we are just after Memorial Day, and Memorial Day is a day that I really appreciate. I mean, there are people who served our country and they died in wartime serving our country. or just died serving our country at any given time. And it's a day to remember those sacrifices that were made by people. And I understand what that means. And so if I were to fly an American flag from my house, what that would say, I would hope to other people, is that I understand what that American flag means. Now, I'm an American, but I'd be an American even if I was just born here, see? But I know, based upon some of the things that I recognize in today's world, that some people fly that American flag not understanding what it means, not understanding that it truly means freedom. And they say they're Americans, but they're not talking about American ideals. They're talking about perhaps just having been born in America, just as if, you know, I'm Protestant because my parents were Protestant. So born in America is different than living by American ideals. So a couple of days ago, I am riding my bicycle, and I ride by a house, and there are some people in the driveway, and they have an American flag that's up on the house. Memorial Day, of course, big day for American flags. And I'm riding my bicycle with my mask on, and I'm doing that because I care about other people, and I'm doing that because I'm told that it's the safest thing to do. And I'm told that if we're going to be in this, as it's been put, invisible war, then we have to fight this war in certain ways. And one of those ways is to make sure that we don't transmit the disease to other people. So I had this mask on. Now, I was stopped and said, "What are you wearing that mask for?" I think we call it mask shaming now. What are you wearing that mask for? It became a really interesting opportunity for me to express what the flag that was hanging in their front yard really meant. Because as far as I know, that flag stands for freedom. And to be patriotic to the ideals of America and to be patriotic to these ideals of freedom means I have some responsibility. You know, and if I'm going to fight this invisible war, then I'd better do it in the way that works. I'd better be a loyal soldier on the field, if you will, especially maybe during Memorial Day. You know, I mean, wouldn't it be horrible if, you know, we were fighting an actual war someplace, as we are actually right now in Afghanistan and in some other areas of the Middle East, and the combatants from America decided not to follow the rules or the commands given by their commanding officers. I mean, just because, right? Because they could do it, because maybe they were encouraged by somebody or some group to not do it. So I got the feeling that there were some people that had encouraged somehow these individuals to take some sort of offense by me wearing this mask. And so I got to say, you know, there's some sacrifices that a lot of people that I love have made to keep this a free nation. And one of those freedoms is that you don't get to tell me what I wear in my face. You don't get to tell me what kind of shorts I have to wear, what kind of shoes I have to wear. You don't get to tell me these things that I make decisions for in a free country. And here you believe that it's your duty to limit my freedom. Now, I don't understand where they went wrong with understanding and grasping these principles that make America great, that make America a place to be, so that we can become anything we desire to be. Where did they get that wrong? How did they get in that space where they didn't understand that? I don't know. But I don't think I made an impact on them when I left. I just don't think I made an impact on them with any of the things that I had to say. But I put my mask back up and rode on down the road. You know, I mean, I think it's important for me to make sure that other people aren't subjected to what it is that I might have. I think it's important that they understand that I care about them. Now, I can go outside and I can see people at a distance, and I can even get, you know, within 10 feet of them, but I stay away from them in the sense that social distancing means something to me. And I don't call it social distancing anymore. I call it physical distancing, because I can be really, really social, just like I'm being with you right now, without being even near you. So I call it physical distancing, and that's important to me to make sure that I'm following those rules. So I don't understand how these ideals that we have fought so long and hard to maintain got so screwed up. You know, there are people in my life that say they're a Christian. They say I'm a Christian, and had they not said that, there's no way in the world I would have known that, because it doesn't look like love is their guiding principle, and they have way more enemies than they have friends. And some of those, in fact, those two principles are the most dynamic principles of Christianity that I know. Those two principles, that you love your enemy and you love God with all your heart and all your might and everything that you have in you. And to me, what that means is, because God, I believe, is all there that is. God simply makes everything out of itself, utilizes itself to make all the things we see, is involved in the creation of all my emotions and feelings and anything that I might know. So the sum total of all it is, plus the power back of all of that stuff, is God. And so, you know, in my mind, in my vernacular, it's really important to recognize that God works through me as me, and I'm completely unified with that source. God's my power, my source, my supply, and in fact is so for the entire world, the entire universe, and beyond. And that's an important aspect, you know, because God's working through me as me, but, you know, I can only utilize what intelligence and wisdom and belief system that I allow myself to utilize. So if I'm open to the top, like this service has us engage in, then I'm open to new things. And if I'm not open at the top, then I'm not open to new things, and I'm not going to understand or even admit them into my consciousness. And that's too bad, because if I say that I am a certain thing, let's say if I say I'm a Christian, and I don't act like a Christian, and I refuse to let those Christian concepts and principles come into me and act as if I am that, then how can I responsibly say that I am? How can I say that charity and love and kindness are my credo when they're not? How can I say that I'm willing to help anyone when I put up a roadblock because somebody has a different political party than me, or the skin color is different? How can I say that I don't care about my fellow man? Because I do. I care. I think if people are hungry, we need to feed them. If people are homeless, we need to find places for people to live. I think that if people need clothing or any other items, we must find a way to give it to them. We don't abandon them and say, you know what, there must be something wrong with your thinking. Because if your thinking was right, you'd be able to bring about all of these things for yourself. I think it's time that we step forward and we make some decisions to help mankind move along as a whole. I use this metaphor of pulling on the same end of the rope, and I use that often because I think it's really important to recognize that we're all in this thing together. And so when we act like we're not in this thing together, and that there are a bunch of different sides, and that they're all divisive with one another, nobody agrees, and in fact we should do everything we can to stifle their good, then that's as unchristian a concept as I think I know. Yet many of the people that I know live that way. And you know, it's not up to me to say you're not a Christian. I mean, I can't do that, and I won't do that. I'm praying for them, believe me. I'm praying for them to see and understand what true Christianity is all about. I really want them to recognize that there is a prosperity and a goodness and an enoughness in this world that does not demand that they seek out more and more and more and push away those that they think might be getting in their way of receiving that. You know, there's something called a zero-sum game, which life is not. I mean, some people believe that it is. If I have good come to me in this world, that's depriving you of good. meaning there's only so much good. See, I get some and you don't have the opportunity for any. This is not like a pie that we cut up and we hand out. You know, this is not what they call a zero-sum game, meaning here's the amount, you pull off what is yours, and the rest is finite. This is a bountiful universe, a magnificent, bountiful universe. But that doesn't mean that we should not make sure that everybody has enough to sustain themselves. We absolutely should. The thing that has been on my mind a little bit lately is this idea of prosperity. You can hear in the background those magnificent geese. I got a notice that there was a prosperity class coming up, and I was thinking I'd kind of like to get in that prosperity class. It sounds like a lot of fun, and I'd really love to discuss some of those principles. And I think they're really important in today's world. I think that prosperity is one of those things that we have to really take a deep look at. See, in this day and age with COVID-19, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have lost their ability to make a gainful living, and they're struggling. It's very difficult for them. Now, the kind of prosperity that I think makes a lot of sense in this world is to develop a sense of what it is that we have in our lives that is given to us in a way that allows us to possess all good without necessarily having to own it. Now, let me give you the Bible verse that inspired this whole idea. 2 Corinthians 6:10. Paul says, "We are sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, poor, yet making many rich, and have nothing, yet possessing all things." Now that's really interesting, isn't it? We have nothing. We don't own anything, yet we possess all things. We don't have any money, yet we are so rich. We do not stop rejoicing just because we're sorrowful. We can hold those two things in our hands at the same time. We can hold the idea that we have nothing, yet there is plenitude in life in the same thought. We can be both of those things. You know, this COVID-19 has kept us indoors, and many of us have probably noticed that we have too many things. We have a lot of stuff, you know. There might be some things you'll want to unload and maybe head off to the nearest Salvation Army or some other thrift store to drop it off and make a donation. But we have way more stuff than we actually need. We have lived in this material society for a long, long period of time, owning a lot of things and not possessing the things that cannot be owned, not possessing the beauty and the love and the truth of what life is all about. You know, I'm at this lake here, and I don't own the lake, you know, but I possess its beauty. Jackie and I get a chance to possess its beauty on a moment-by-moment basis. We don't own the geese, you know, but we have a chance to possess all that they behold. We have a chance to possess every single moment of our lives, the beautiful wildlife that exists here. And we can become a part of it if that's what we want to do. So we don't own it, yet we possess it. You know, we can go to the mountains and see the beauty up in the mountains. We don't own those mountains, but we possess that beauty. And here's something even more. We do not own a Rolls Royce. We don't own a Jaguar. We do not own several different houses. We don't own a lot of possessions, but we possess an attitude of prosperity that is absolutely magnificent because we have these beautiful things that can be possessed and not owned. And so when somebody says, are you a success, Greg? Are you and Jackie a success? We say, well, absolutely. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with how much money you have. We are a success and we are prosperous. And I'm hoping that this prosperity class I was just talking about is all about moving people into that place where they have enough, where there's an enoughness. And so instead of maybe filling their garages with these cars that, you know, they might have wanted all their lives, and not have even considered themselves prosperous without, that they can consider themselves the possessors of all the beauty in the world. They consider themselves the possessors of all the beauty that can possibly be, and it's within them as well as without. So we can see it, and that's wonderful, and we can own it, possess it, and that's wonderful. But when we feel it, we get it at a deeper level, at a more amazingly heartfelt and soul-felt level. And so I'm hoping that this prosperity class that's coming up, and I think Jackie and I are both going to take it. No, it's way away. It's a long way away, and it won't be in person. It's going to be by Zoom. But this particular class, I'm hoping, is going to be about setting that mindset so that we might be able to find ourselves successful and prosperous without having all the material things that, might make a person on the outside think that we were successful. I know lots of successful people that aren't happy with all their, well, let me back that up a little bit, because I think success is defined differently, but I know a lot of people who believe they're successful because they have large bank accounts, large houses, and they're very unhappy. And that's a truly sad thing, that they're very unhappy. But I think success is all about that inner happiness, that inner knowing, that recognition that you are loved and that you are love. So, look, all of this is brought to you by a deep sense of sorrow for the last day and a half. We reached a milestone today. This is kind of like a video log as well as a service, but we reached a milestone today, 100,000 coronavirus deaths here in the United States. And that's a grim milestone. I think that there's great sorrow in my heart around it. We've also seen a lot happening in our lives around racism that has broken my heart. There have been a couple of incidences recently which have been very newsworthy that have absolutely broken my heart, and I've had to find ways to move through these difficulties, and I have to tell you, some of it makes me very, very angry. I recognize that there's a way to deal with anger, and it's not to suppress it, it's to move through it. And so what I do is I recognize that anger and I allow it if necessary. I don't live in it, but I allow it. Then I get a chance to investigate it and see what I can do about it, and then I can nurture a response to that. I can start to nurture myself and see a different way of viewing this, and maybe stepping in on my own to try and make things better. But much of the time, the only way I can make things better is by being better. And I think that the better is the greatest indictment of current thinking. Because if we can be better each and every moment, then we are moving forward. And the only way we can be better is if we're willing to accept these new ideals. So, are we being who we say we are? Are we a country that is truly engaged in this process of fighting an invisible war when we refuse to do the things that are necessary to make this thing go away? I mean, what is going on? Why are we there? Are we truly a free nation that has all the opportunities that any person can have for every color, creed, race, sexual identity? Are we really that? Or do we just say that we're that? I mean, can we be better? Of course we can be better. Can we step into it and really start to make a difference in not only our lives, but the lives of others? Yes. And I think that we ought to do that. I think we can, and I think we could. And so, that's been hard it's been very much on my heart, these difficulties, these concerns, these milestones. And to a great degree, this time with you has allowed me to heal as well, to move through some of this stuff, to really take a look and see whether or not I'm living an authentic life. That is a life of integrity, one that my thoughts and my actions match up with what I say I am. So here's what I want to do. I want to slip into prayer. I want to find ourselves in a prayerful space where we know the love that's healing at all times, and bring a healing consciousness to the people that are hurting, who have lost loved ones through COVID-19, loved ones through violence, through strife and difficulty, those that are still suffering and grieving from loved ones lost in various wars that Memorial Day so aptly marks. I want to recognize all of those people and to let them know, let you know, and let myself know, and let Jackie know that this love that we're bringing forth right now is a healing love. It's the kind of love that allows us to grow through this in a way that makes sense. And so I know that right now. I know that God is present right here and right now, in, around, and through all things, including those feelings. I know we're absolutely united with those feelings so that we can deal with them. We recognize we're one with them. And I know that what we do is we go through those processes of the various feelings that are necessary in order to get through this grief. We work through it. We don't avoid it. We work through it and we become stronger, more capable, more able to deal with whatever comes in the future. And so I know that each and every person on this service tonight is blessed and filled with love, and filled with all of the things that are necessary for them to safely align with life, to do the things that they need to do, to make the adjustments that need to be made, and to help all people with compassion and empathy and love. It's my prayer that we get along. It's my prayer that we have compassion for one another and can accept one another and can help one another, because we need that more now than ever before. And I have great gratitude for this, knowing that it is so, that as I say it, it becomes form. We bring it into this magnificent world through our beliefs, our thoughts, and our feelings, and then we begin to act in that way, and it becomes. And so I release these words into the law of mind with great thanksgiving, and please join me by saying, and so it is. So here we go. We got some people here that I really want to say hi to. Sherry and Victoria and Bobby, Monica Gump. We got RJ and Bonnie. Good to see you guys. We got Jan and Mary Hercules and Marion and Wendy Herrera. We got Kelly. We got Life. We got Anita and Cindy and Pam and Elka and Annabelle. Wendy Scrupa. Peggy's here. Kelly McDowell. Hi, Kelly. Sue Haynes. Kirsty. Good to see you. Joe. Charlie and Jorge. It's been great seeing you guys. I appreciate you, and I love you very much. And if there's anything that you need in this life, you just call me, okay? All right. Thanks.